Superannuation funds are moving to protect members' savings following US President Donald Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminium. Joining me now is Dr. Nataliya Ilyushina, economist at RMIT University. Thank you so much for joining me. Dr. Ilyushina, this is an issue that is playing out on the world stage at the moment. It's not just Australia that is being impacted by these tariffs, but we do really want to get a picture of how it may affect the country at the moment, given that we're already really in a difficult economic situation. I want to get your thoughts firstly. How likely is it that we will see the US impose restrictions on essential medicine?
Good afternoon, Julia. And of course, the tariffs on Tuesday, Wednesday that Trump imposed on us came as a shock, but also as a warning that it's just the beginning. The next could be beef and essential medicines. And while tariffs on steel and aluminium have not much potential to impact on our economy because we only have, as many times mentioned this week, 0.2% of our exports, that the beef and pharmaceuticals, that's the two next targets, especially pharmaceuticals, even though the exports of them are smaller than, say, beef again, they are quite a concerning from the social point of view. We already had multiple measures to ensure that medicines are affordable. There were reduction in prescription fees, and we recently got allowed to get multiple packages in one prescriptions. So that could be a significant blow from the social side of things, not only from economic side.
So could this undo a lot of the work that the government's done around trying to make medicine more affordable? How likely do you think it is that this restriction could be put in place? And what more do you think the government could do here to try to get some kind of exemption or stave off this impact?
Julia, if anybody could get an exemption from the United States tariffs, Australia should be the first in line. We are not just the closest ally, but also we import a lot from the United States. We import airplanes, heavy machinery, for example, caterpillar tractors. And that's very important for the United States. But the fact that we could not secure that agreement is concerning. And the argument on Friday from one of the ministers that Trump doesn't give exemptions to anyone is not valid. If he was to give an exemption to anybody, we would be the first one.
So is this a failing of the Albanese government here? Is there more that could be done, or, failing what's already happened, looking towards the future, is there more we can do now to prevent further tariffs?
I don't think in the next few months anything can be done because it's a clear and ongoing breakdown of relationship that's been, there were multiple evidence to that, starting from the dealings between Kevin Rudd with Donald Trump. It is a very unfortunate situation because tariffs are not good for anyone. Economically, they hurt both suppliers and customers in both countries. So, and Trump does not care about the global economy. He cares about USA, and he has his own goals. And steel and tariffs on steel and aluminium on Australia is just the first glance what he's capable of. Another point is that USA can handle tariffs a lot better than we do. Despite they're bad for the economy too, they're a big country that have a lot more opportunity to diversify. We as a small country, relatively small country, we rely a lot heavier on trade, and it will be a lot harder to ask our economy to absorb those changes. And until the next elections, we won't be able to tell if there will be any improvements in the relationship between us and the United States.
And on that point, we've already heard US President Donald Trump say there's a chance that the US will experience a recession as all of the impact of these changes levels out. What about the economic impact in Australia if the US President keeps going down this path?
Look, Julia, our economy has been struggling for a while now, and there's leading indicators of a recession already. With Trump tariffs or without Trump tariffs, we were heading into recession because of lack of productivity. The labor productivity has been reported to be falling by Productivity Commission about 3.7%. Capital to labor ratio fell by about 5%, and that's an indicator of a slowing business investment and productivity. And just yesterday, the Australian reported there is a forecast of further slowing in investment in capital by non-mining businesses. So that shows a lot of uncertainty on business side, and any extra cost of production which tariffs will impose, or any reduction in the global demand for our goods, can tip us over the edge. Because we're already in a per capita recession. The recent data on GDP growth is in one digits, we're barely making it. So while Trump tariffs definitely not going to do any good for our economy, if our economy was strong and productive, it shouldn't have been able to tip us over.
And just lastly, we've already seen some countries take action through the World Trade Organization. We know our Prime Minister has already said Australia will not impose reciprocal tariffs. Is that the right move in your view?
As I said, tariffs are never good, but also, again, we're small economy, so it can actually backfire on us more. But what Albanese mentioned, what his rationale is that he won't impose reciprocal tariffs because he wants to protect workers, is actually economically incorrect. If he does impose tariffs, it does protect industries because it shields them from the foreign competition, but only short term, and it also shields inefficient businesses from foreign competition, which again in the long term is not a good way to go. We need to focus on productivity first, and that's what we're not doing. That's what's not happening. So in the long term, reciprocal tariffs for us when you are a small country is not a good idea. It only can worsen the relationship and put us in a disadvantage in negotiations with the United States.
And just really quickly, we're leading into a federal election, federal budget. What would be your advice to leaders in terms of spending then?
Recently, spending's been skyrocketing, and while it's an economic fact that any party in the government in the lead up into the elections will be spending more, those excessive government spending undoing all the hard work that Reserve Bank is doing and are potentially inflationary. And we already have tariffs that's going to be inflationary. So I would recommend to slow down and not try to buy votes when we are already in a cost of living crisis and in a productivity trap.
Thanks so much for your time, Dr. Ilyushina. It will be fascinating to see that budget and also how the election goes.
Absolutely.
We've already seen, of course, the federal government spend pretty big already, and see if that continues. Thank you so much for your time. Moving on now, a request will be made to the Australian government to send troops to Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire.